Everyday English Podcast
by English Talking Today.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to English Talking Today, the podcast dedicated to helping you become a more confident and fluent English speaker. I'm Mary, and today we're diving into a super practical and incredibly useful topic: how to talk about your day in English. Now, you might think, Mary, talking about my day? That sounds pretty basic. And yes, on the surface, it might seem simple. But trust me, mastering this skill is like unlocking a cheat code for daily English practice, boosting your confidence, and expanding your vocabulary in a very natural way. It's not just about listing activities. It's about telling a story, your story, of what you do every single day. And that's something you'll do in real life all the time, whether you're chatting with a new friend, catching up with an old one, or even in a job interview when they ask about your time management. It also really helps you organize your thoughts and speak more logically, which is a big plus for overall communication. So, why is this so important for English learners? Well, think about it. Every day is different, right? Even if you have a very routine life, there are always little variations, different things you notice, different feelings you have. Talking about your day gives you a chance to use a wide range of vocabulary: verbs for actions, adjectives for feelings, adverbs for how you do things. It also helps you practice different tenses, especially the past tense when you're describing what already happened, and sometimes the present tense for habits, or even the future tense if you talk about your plans for the evening. It's daily, free practice that's always available. Plus, when you can describe your day clearly, you feel more in control of the conversation, and that, my friends, is a huge confidence builder. Imagine someone asks you, so, what did you do today? And you can confidently and smoothly explain your morning, afternoon, and evening. That feels good, doesn't it? Today, we're going to break down how to talk about your day into 3 easy-to-manage parts: your morning routine, your afternoon routine, and your evening/night routine. This structure will help you organize your thoughts and make your story flow naturally. We'll also go over some essential tips for speaking naturally and confidently, and, of course, we'll talk about some common mistakes to avoid. My goal is for you to walk away from this episode feeling ready to describe your day with more detail, more confidence, and a richer vocabulary. Let's start with the first part of your day, the morning routine. This is the part that really sets the tone for everything else. How you start your day often influences how the rest of it goes. When you're describing your morning, it's best to use simple sentences. Don't try to use super complex grammar or vocabulary at this stage. The goal is clarity and confidence. Also, time-based words are your best friends here. Words like first, then, after that, and next will guide your listener through your morning step by step. So, what kind of activities do we usually do in the morning? Well, let's think about it. First, you wake up. You can say something like, first, I wake up at 7 a.m. Or, if it's already happened, first, I woke up at 7 a.m. Then, what do? Maybe you get out of bed. Then, I usually get out of bed right away. After that, perhaps you wash your face or brush your teeth. After that, I go to the bathroom to wash my face and brush my teeth. Next comes breakfast for many people. Next, I go to the kitchen to make breakfast. I usually have toast and coffee. You can add a little detail here, like what you eat or drink. And then, before you start work or school, you might do some planning or getting ready. After breakfast, I check my emails and plan my tasks for the day. Or then I get dressed for work. Let's put it all together. Imagine I'm describing my morning. I might say, this morning, first I woke up at 6:30 a.m. Then I spent about 10 minutes stretching in bed before I finally got up. After that, I went straight to the kitchen to make some coffee. While the coffee was brewing, I checked the news on my phone. Next, I had my coffee and a piece of fruit for breakfast. It was a pretty quiet start. Finally, I got dressed and prepared for the podcast recording. See how those time words, first, then, after that, next, finally, really help to create a clear sequence of events? It makes it much easier for someone to follow along. Now, let's move on to the afternoon routine. This is often the busiest part of the day for most people, involving work, school, or various other activities. Just like the morning, using time words is super helpful to keep your narrative organized. For the afternoon, you can use phrases like after lunch, in the afternoon, later, and around blah blah. You can put the specific time. What are some common afternoon activities? Work or school, of course. After lunch, I went back to work. I had a lot of meetings. Or, in the afternoon, I attended my English class. Lunch itself is a big part of the afternoon. Around 1 p.m., I usually have lunch. Today, I had a sandwich. Studying or specific tasks. Later in the afternoon, I spent 2 hours studying for my history exam. Taking a break. At 3 p.m., I took a short break to walk outside and get some fresh air. Let's try an example for the afternoon. I might say, this afternoon was quite busy. After finishing my morning tasks, I had a quick lunch around 12:30 p.m. I ate at my desk while replying to some emails. Then, in the early afternoon, I had 2 important online meetings that lasted until about 3 p.m. After those meetings, I spent some time preparing for this podcast episode, doing research and outlining my points. Later, around 4:30 p.m., I took a short walk around the block to clear my head before coming back to wrap up some final things. It was a productive but tiring afternoon. Again, notice the flow created by after finishing around, then, in the early afternoon, after those meetings, and later. And finally, we have the evening and night routine. This is usually the time for relaxing, spending time with family or friends, hobbies, and preparing for the next day. Phrases like in the evening, after dinner, before bed, and at night are perfect for structuring this part of your story. What kinds of things do people do in the evening? Returning home from work or school. In the evening, I usually get home around 6 p.m. Eating dinner. After getting home, I helped my wife prepare dinner. We had pasta tonight. Hobbies or leisure activities. After dinner, I like to relax by reading a book or watching some TV. Or, sometimes, I go to the gym in the evening. Spending time with others. My family and I usually play a board game together before bed. Getting ready for sleep. Before bed, I take a shower and get my clothes ready for tomorrow. Here's an example of an evening routine. Last night, in the evening, I finished work and drove home. I got back around 6:30 p.m. After that, my family and I had dinner together. We made a really tasty chicken curry. Then, after dinner, we watched a movie on TV. It was a new action film. Around 9:30 p.m., I helped my kids get ready for bed and read them a story. Finally, before I went to sleep myself, I spent about 30 minutes reading my own book. I was in bed by 11 p.m. The phrases in the evening after that, then around, and finally, Before I went to sleep, guide us smoothly through the events. So, that's the structure. Morning, afternoon, evening. Now let's talk about some really important tips for speaking naturally and confidently when you're describing your day. The first tip, and this is crucial, is to speak in order. Always describe events chronologically from morning to afternoon to evening. Imagine trying to follow a story where someone jumps from afternoon to morning to evening and back again. It would be confusing, right? Keeping things in order makes your story easy to understand and shows that you can organize your thoughts logically. So, start with first, I woke up, and continue step by step through your day. My second tip is to use time words. We've talked about these already, but they are so important. I want to emphasize them again. Words like first, then, next, after that, later, finally, in the morning, in the afternoon, in the evening, before bed, and around time are like little signposts that guide your listener. They create a smooth flow and help you transition between different activities. Without them, your sentences might sound like a list, like I woke up. I ate breakfast. I went to work. With them, it becomes a story. First, I woke up. Then I ate breakfast. After that, I went to work. See the difference? Third, and this is where you can make your story much more interesting and personal, add feelings and details. Don't just list what you did. Describe how you felt or something interesting about what happened. For example, instead of just saying, I went to work, you could say, I went to work and I felt really excited about a new project. Or, I went to work, but I was a little tired because I didn't sleep well. You can use words like happy, tired, relaxed, stressed, excited, bored, interesting, challenging, delicious, difficult, easy. These words add color and personality to your story and make it much more engaging for your listener. For example, instead of I had lunch, you could say, I had a delicious lunch with my colleagues, and we talked about our weekend plans. This gives more information and makes it more vivid. Fourth, and this is especially important for learners who might feel nervous, use simple sentences. Keep your sentences relatively short and clear. Don't try to construct very long, complex sentences with multiple clauses if you're not fully confident yet. Simple sentences are less likely to have grammatical mistakes, and they're easier for you to form on the spot, which reduces nervousness. For example, I woke up early. I drank coffee. I read a book is perfectly fine. As you get more confident, you can slowly start to combine them, like, after I woke up early, I drank coffee and read a book. But start simple. Clarity is much more important than complexity, especially when you are building confidence. And my final and perhaps most important tip is simply to practice, practice, practice. The more you practice talking about your day, the more natural and confident you will become. Try talking to yourself in front of a mirror, record yourself on your phone, or, even better, find a language exchange partner or a friend to practice with. Don't wait for someone to ask you. Actively look for opportunities to describe your day. The more you do it, the easier it will become, and the words and phrases will start to come to you more automatically. Think of it as a muscle. The more you exercise it, the stronger it gets. Now, let's talk about some common mistakes that English learners often make when describing their day, so you can be aware of them and avoid them. The first common mistake is forgetting to use the past tense for completed actions. If you are talking about what you did today or yesterday, those actions are finished, so so you need to use the past tense of the verbs. For example, if you say, I wake up at 7 a.m., it sounds like you are talking about your general routine. But if you are talking about this morning, you need to say, I woke up at 7 a.m. If you say, I eat breakfast, it's general. But for this morning, I ate breakfast. This is a very common one, so pay close attention to your verb tenses. It's perfectly fine to say, I usually wake up at 7 a.m., present tense for a habit, and then switch to, but this morning, I woke up at 6 a.m., past tense for a specific event. Another mistake is giving very short answers without details. Someone asks, what did you do today? And you just say, I worked. While grammatically correct, it doesn't give much information and doesn't allow you to practice your English effectively. Try to expand a little. I worked. I had a busy day with a lot of meetings, and I finished a big report. This gives more context, uses more vocabulary, and makes the conversation more engaging. Think of it as telling a mini story, not just giving a simple answer. Third, mixing up the time order of events. We talked about this as a tip for speaking naturally, but it's also a common mistake. Imagine you say, I had dinner, then I went to work, then I woke up. That's clearly incorrect. Always follow the natural progression of time, morning, then afternoon, then evening. This makes your story easy to understand for anyone listening. And finally, trying to speak too fast or too perfectly. Many learners feel pressure to speak quickly or to avoid any mistakes. But trust me, clarity is much more important than speed or perfection, especially when you are learning. It's absolutely okay to speak slowly and deliberately. Take your time to think about the words you want to use and the correct grammar. Don't worry if you make a mistake. It's a normal part of learning. The important thing is to communicate your message clearly. If you speak too fast, you might make more mistakes, and it might be harder for your listener to understand you. Focus on being understood. Let's quickly recap what we've covered today. Talking about your day is a super important skill for English learners. It gives you daily practice, builds confidence, and expands your vocabulary. We broke down your day into 3 parts: morning, afternoon, and evening. Remember to use simple sentences and time words like first, then, after that, in the afternoon, and before bed to structure your story. Our key tips for speaking naturally were 1. Speak in chronological order. 2. Use time words to guide your listener. 3. Add feelings and details to make your story interesting. 4. Use simple, clear sentences. 5. And most importantly, practice, practice, practice. And we also talked about common mistakes to avoid. 1. Forgetting to use the past tense for completed actions. 2. Giving overly short answers. 3. Mixing up the time order of events. 4. Trying to speak too fast or perfectly. So, your homework, if you choose to accept it, is to practice describing your day today. Start with your morning, then move to your afternoon, and then your evening. Try to include some feelings and details. Don't worry about being perfect. Just focus on communicating clearly and using some of the tips and structures we discussed today. Remember, every time you talk about your day, you're not just practicing English. You're also reflecting on your experiences and organizing your thoughts, which are valuable skills in any language. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. They are part of the learning process. Just keep speaking, keep trying, and keep learning. I hope this episode has given you some useful tools and confidence to start talking about your day more effectively in English. If you have any questions or want to share how you practiced, please leave a comment on our YouTube channel, English Talking Today. We love hearing from you. That's all for today's episode of English Talking Today. Thank you for listening, and I look forward to helping you improve your English even further next time. Keep practicing, and I'll talk to you soon. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss our next episode. And check out our other videos for more English learning tips. See you next time.